In the small town of Ravenwood, nestled deep within a dense forest cloaked in perpetual mist, there stood an old, abandoned asylum. Its crumbling facade loomed ominously against the backdrop of towering pine trees, its windows like vacant eyes staring into the darkness. Legend whispered of the asylum's grim history, a place where the mentally ill were once confined and forgotten, their tormented screams echoing through its decaying corridors. Tales of cruel treatments and unspeakable horrors had etched themselves into the town's collective memory, a chilling reminder of the darkness that had once lurked within its walls. One stormy night, a group of thrill-seeking teenagers, Lily, Jake, Emily, and Chris, dared each other to explore the abandoned asylum, drawn by the allure of its haunted reputation. Armed with flashlights and nervous laughter, they ventured into the heart of Ravenwood's darkest secret. The asylum greeted them with a suffocating silence broken only by the sound of rain tapping against shattered windows and the distant rumble of thunder. The air was thick with the musty scent of decay, as if the building itself exhaled a long-held breath of dread. As they navigated the labyrinthine halls, shadows danced along the walls, playing tricks on their senses. Rooms lay frozen in time, rusty beds with restraints still attached, overturned chairs, and faded murals that hinted at the patient's tortured minds. Emily, the most skeptical of the group, scoffed at the eerie atmosphere, her bravado masking a creeping unease. Chris, the daredevil, forged ahead with reckless abandon, eager to prove his fearlessness. Lily and Jake exchanged nervous glances, their grip on reality slipping as the asylum's malevolent presence closed in around them. They stumbled upon the asylum's basement, a chamber of darkness where forgotten secrets lay entombed. Cold sweat trickled down their spines as they descended creaking stairs into the abyss below, their flashlights casting feeble beams that barely pierced the oppressive gloom. In the depths of the basement, they discovered a series of locked cells, tiny, windowless chambers where the asylum's most disturbed patients had once been confined. The air grew colder, a tangible dread seeping into their bones as they peered through rusted bars into the darkness within. Suddenly, a chilling gust of wind extinguished their flashlights, plunging them into absolute darkness. Panic gripped their hearts as whispered voices filled the air, echoing with madness and despair. Shadows writhed and twisted, coalescing into sinister forms that prowled the darkness with malicious intent. Lily screamed, her voice lost in the cacophony of haunting echoes that reverberated through the basement. Jake fumbled for his lighter, its feeble flame casting flickering shadows that danced across the walls. Emily and Chris huddled together, their breath coming in ragged gasps as they fought against the suffocating grip of fear. Footsteps echoed from the shadows, a slow, deliberate approach that sent shivers down their spines. A figure emerged from the darkness, a spectral silhouette clad in tattered asylum garb, its face obscured by shadow. The entity spoke in a voice that echoed with a chorus of tortured souls, recounting tales of suffering and anguish that had stained the asylum's walls with sorrow. It reached out with skeletal hands, its touch icy and unyielding as it sought to claim the intruders for its own. With hearts pounding and adrenaline surging, the teenagers fled in blind terror, scrambling up the stairs and through the labyrinth of corridors. Their footsteps echoed like thunder in the empty halls as they raced against the unseen forces that pursued them relentlessly. At last, they burst through the asylum's front doors, gasping for breath and drenched in sweat. Rain poured from the heavens, washing away the remnants of their harrowing ordeal. They stumbled into the safety of the forest, their minds reeling with disbelief and trauma. They never spoke of what they had witnessed in the depths of the asylum, nor did they return to Ravenwood. But the asylum remained a haunting presence in their nightmares, a reminder of the thin veil between sanity and madness, and the horrors that lurked in the darkest recesses of the human psyche. And so, the legend of the abandoned asylum in Ravenwood endured, a cautionary tale whispered among those who dared to tempt fate and venture into the realm of the unknown, where the spirits of the past awaited with bated breath and vengeful longing. Weeks passed since their harrowing escape from the abandoned asylum in Ravenwood, but the memories continued to haunt Lily, Jake, Emily, and Chris. Each of them struggled to reconcile the horrors they had witnessed with the mundane routines of everyday life. Lily found herself plagued by vivid nightmares, the specters of the asylum's tormented souls clawing at her subconscious. Sleep became a fleeting refuge, her waking hours filled with a persistent unease that refused to dissipate. Jake, once the embodiment of reckless bravery, retreated into a shell of silence. The adrenaline that had fueled his daredevil antics now left him paralyzed with fear, his nights spent in restless vigilance against unseen terrors. Emily buried herself in research, scouring libraries and online archives for any mention of the asylum's dark history. She sought validation in facts and figures, hoping to find a rational explanation for the inexplicable horrors they had encountered. Chris, the self-proclaimed skeptic, found himself questioning everything he thought he knew about the world. His skepticism had been shattered in the face of undeniable supernatural phenomena, leaving him adrift in a sea of doubt and disbelief. Despite their efforts to move on, the asylum's presence lingered like a shadow over their lives. They avoided discussing their shared ordeal, afraid that even the slightest mention might summon the malevolent spirits back into their midst. One crisp autumn evening, Emily received an anonymous email, a link to a website dedicated to paranormal investigations. Intrigued yet apprehensive, she clicked through to find a message written in cryptic language. "The asylum calls for justice." Her heart raced as she recognized the asylum's crumbling facade in the background of a haunting photograph. It seemed as if someone knew their secret, someone who believed in the truth of their experience and sought closure for the restless spirits that still prowled its decaying halls. Emily gathered Lily, Jake, and Chris together, sharing the unsettling discovery. They debated their next move. Should they confront the asylum's dark past once more? Or should they continue to bury it in the recesses of their minds? In the end, curiosity and a lingering sense of responsibility compelled them to return to Ravenwood. They arrived under the cover of nightfall, the air thick with the familiar scent of pine and damp earth. The asylum loomed before them like a specter of their own making, its windows now dark and foreboding against the moonlit sky. Armed with digital cameras, voice recorders, and other paranormal investigation equipment borrowed from the newfound website, they cautiously entered the asylum's crumbling entrance. Each step echoed in the empty corridors, a haunting reminder of their previous visit. They retraced their path through the asylum's labyrinthine halls, the devices in their hands buzzing with inexplicable energy. Cold spots and eerie whispers greeted them at every turn, confirming the presence of otherworldly forces that refused to be ignored. In the basement, where they had encountered the malevolent entity, they set up their equipment in a circle, hoping to capture evidence of the asylum's restless spirits. The air grew thick with anticipation as they called out into the darkness, inviting the entities to communicate. Suddenly, a chill descended upon them, a tangible presence that sent shivers down their spines. Electronic devices flickered and died, their batteries drained by an unseen force. Shadows danced along the walls, coalescing into spectral forms that seemed to beckon them deeper into the abyss. Lily, the bravest among them that night, spoke with trembling voice, her words echoing through the basement like a plea for understanding. "We come in peace," she said, her voice quavering but resolute. "Show yourselves. Let us help you find peace." For a moment, all was silent, a pregnant pause filled with anticipation and dread. Then, a voice echoed from the shadows, a faint whisper that grew into a chorus of anguished cries and sorrowful lamentations. The spirits of the asylum's tormented souls revealed themselves, their forms shimmering in the faint moonlight that filtered through cracked windows. They spoke of injustice and suffering, of lives lost and dreams shattered by the cruelty of those who had once wielded power over them. Moved by compassion and a shared sense of empathy, Lily, Jake, Emily, and Chris listened intently, their hearts heavy with the weight of the asylum's tragic history. They offered words of solace and apology, a gesture of reconciliation for the sins of the past that had bound the spirits to this earthly plane. As dawn approached, the spirits began to fade, their ethereal forms dissipating like mist in the wind. The asylum groaned, its ancient timbers sighing with relief as if releasing a long-held breath. Outside, The first rays of sunlight broke through the clouds, bathing Ravenwood in a golden glow. Lily, Jake, Emily, and Chris emerged from the asylum, their faces etched with a mixture of exhaustion and relief. They knew that their journey was far from over, that the asylum's dark legacy would continue to haunt them in memories and dreams. But they also knew that they had found a measure of closure, a chance to confront their fears and make amends for the sins of the past. And as they walked away from the asylum, the forest whispered tales of redemption and renewal, a testament to the enduring power of courage, compassion, and the unbreakable bonds of friendship that had carried them through the darkest of nights. As Lily, Jake, Emily, and Chris walked away from the abandoned asylum in Ravenwood, a heavy silence hung between them. The weight of their shared experience pressed upon their shoulders, mingling with a newfound sense of closure and the lingering chill of the spirit's presence. They found themselves drawn to a nearby clearing where the forest canopy parted, allowing the warm sunlight to filter through. They sat in a circle on a bed of fallen leaves, their breaths slow and steady as they processed the events of the night. "It's finally over," Emily murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. Her fingers trembled as she tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. Jake nodded solemnly, his eyes fixed on the distant horizon where the asylum's silhouette still loomed against the early morning sky. "I never thought we'd go back there," he admitted, his voice rough with emotion. "But I'm glad we did. Those spirits, they deserved peace." Lily, usually the first to crack a joke or lighten the mood, remained uncharacteristically quiet. Her gaze drifted skyward, lost in thought as she wrestled with the lingering echoes of the asylum's haunting past. Chris, the skeptic-turned-believer, broke the silence with a hesitant smile. "I think we did something important tonight," he said, his voice tinged with awe. "Maybe now those souls can finally rest." As they sat together in the clearing, a sense of unity washed over them, a bond forged not only by shared fear but also by compassion and empathy for the tortured spirits they had encountered. In that moment, they knew that their lives had been irrevocably changed by their journey into Ravenwood's darkest depths. Days turned into weeks, and the memory of the asylum began to fade like a distant dream. Lily, Jake, Emily, and Chris found solace in each other's company, their friendship strengthened by the trials they had faced together. But just as they began to believe that the horrors of Ravenwood were behind them, strange occurrences started to unfold in their everyday lives. Objects went missing only to reappear in unexpected places. Shadows flickered in the corners of their vision, disappearing when they turned to look. Dreams were haunted by fleeting glimpses of faces they couldn't quite place. Emily, ever the researcher, delved into ancient texts and occult lore, searching for answers to the inexplicable phenomena that now plagued them. She discovered references to a powerful artifact, a talisman used by the asylum's original owner to bind the spirits to its walls, ensuring they could never find peace. Determined to uncover the truth, Emily shared her findings with Lily, Jake, and Chris. They agreed to return to Ravenwood once more, their hearts heavy with a sense of duty to the restless spirits they had vowed to help. This time, armed with knowledge and a newfound resolve, they ventured back into the heart of the forest. The asylum loomed before them, its presence like a specter haunting their memories. They navigated its decrepit halls with cautious determination, their footsteps echoing in the empty corridors. In the basement, where they had communed with the spirits before, they found a hidden chamber, a secret sanctum where the asylum's original owner had conducted his darkest rituals. Ancient symbols adorned the walls, their meaning lost to time but radiating an aura of malevolent power. At the center of the chamber lay the artifact, a small, intricately carved amulet pulsing with an otherworldly glow. It seemed to hum with a life of its own, a beacon drawing them closer even as it filled them with apprehension. Chris reached out tentatively, his fingers trembling as he touched the artifact. A surge of energy coursed through him, a jolt of recognition that this was the source of their troubles, the key to setting things right. With a collective breath, Lily, Jake, Emily, and Chris joined hands, their voices raised in a solemn chant. They called upon the spirits, offering words of liberation and release, their hearts brimming with compassion and forgiveness. The artifact trembled in Chris's grasp, its light flickering as if in response to their entreaties. Shadows coalesced around them, swirling in a vortex of emotion and energy. The spirits appeared, their forms radiant yet ethereal, their eyes filled with gratitude and sorrow. In unison, Lily, Jake, Emily, and Chris placed their hands upon the artifact, channeling their collective strength and resolve. With a final surge of power, they shattered the artifact's binding spell, releasing the spirits from their eternal torment. As the last echoes of their chant faded, the asylum groaned, its ancient timbers settling as if sighing in relief. The spirits ascended like wisps of smoke, disappearing into the night sky with a sense of peace they had long been denied. Lily, Jake, Emily, and Chris stood together in the chamber, their hearts lightened by the knowledge that they had fulfilled their promise to the spirits. They emerged from the asylum for the final time, the weight of their burden lifted, their spirits buoyed by a newfound sense of closure. And as they walked away from Ravenwood, the forest whispered tales of their bravery and compassion, a testament to the enduring power of friendship and the courage to confront darkness, even in the face of the unknown. As Lily, Jake, Emily, and Chris emerged from the asylum in Ravenwood for the final time, a profound sense of relief washed over them. The forest around them seemed quieter, as if the very trees and undergrowth held their breath in anticipation of what had just transpired. They walked in silence, each lost in their own thoughts, processing the surreal events of the past few weeks. The weight that had been pressing down on them since their first visit to the asylum now lifted, replaced by a lingering sense of peace and accomplishment. "I can't believe it's finally over," Emily murmured, breaking the silence as they reached the edge of the forest. Her voice was filled with a mixture of awe and disbelief. Lily nodded slowly, her expression reflecting the deep introspection that had settled over her. "We did something incredible," she said softly, "helping those spirits find peace. It's something I'll never forget." Jake, usually the one to lighten the mood with a joke or a quip, remained uncharacteristically serious. His eyes were distant, as if still processing the magnitude of what they had experienced. "I never thought we'd be a part of something like this," he admitted quietly. Chris, the skeptic-turned-believer, couldn't help but smile faintly. "I guess some mysteries are meant to be solved," he said, his voice tinged with wonder. "Even if they lead us into places we never thought we'd go." As they emerged from the forest into the outskirts of Ravenwood, the first rays of dawn painted the horizon in hues of pink and gold. It was as if nature itself was celebrating their triumph, a testament to the bonds of friendship and the courage they had displayed in the face of darkness. They parted ways at the edge of town, each carrying with them the memories of their shared journey. Lily returned to her art studio, finding solace in the vibrant colors of her canvases as she translated her emotions onto the blank slate. Jake threw himself into his studies, his thirst for knowledge fueled by the mysteries he had encountered. He devoured books on psychology and the paranormal, seeking to understand the human mind and the supernatural forces that defied explanation. Emily continued her research, now focused on documenting their experiences and preserving the asylum's history. She wrote articles and gave lectures, sharing their story with the world and ensuring that the spirits' voices would never be forgotten. Chris, ever the adventurer, embarked on a journey of self-discovery. He traveled to distant lands, seeking out other haunted places and lending his newfound expertise to those in need of closure. Years passed, and their lives took different paths, but the bond forged in the darkness of Ravenwood's asylum remained unbreakable. They kept in touch, meeting periodically to reminisce about their shared adventure and the profound impact it had on their lives. One evening, many years later, Lily received an unexpected package in the mail. Inside was a small, intricately carved amulet, the artifact they had destroyed to free the spirits from the asylum. A note accompanied the artifact, written in Chris's familiar handwriting. "Found this in a forgotten corner of a distant ruin. Thought you might want to keep it as a reminder of our journey." Tears welled up in Lily's eyes as she held the artifact in her hands, its surface cool to the touch. She placed it on a shelf in her studio, where it caught the light and cast intricate shadows on the wall, a silent testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the enduring power of friendship. And as she stood there, surrounded by her art and the memories of their shared adventure, Lily knew that their story would live on, a whispered tale of bravery, compassion, and the unyielding belief that even in the darkest of places, light could still be found.